Welcome to the Critically Coolers. Join me for a coffee. Go grab one if you haven't made one already. We are going to be talking about Game of the Year. Now, if you hadn't guessed by my Christmas jumper, it's the end of the year. It's 2024, or December 2024. And I feel like it's always a really good idea to kind of look back at the games that we've played, the games that we've reviewed, and nominate our best game of the year, essentially. And this year's been a little bit short in places. I think some of the biggest games that have released this year, personally, I've tried to sidestep slightly. I know that a lot of other people have as well. Some of those big names just coming up a little bit short, which is really, really sad for the gaming industry. But I think next year could be a huge, massive year. I know that this year we also had certain companies, development companies, shutting down as well, which I think is really, really sad. But yeah. On the whole, we did have a few decent games. Now, I don't know if you played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but that was top on my list to play this year. And luckily, I did manage to get stuck into it, released a review for it as well, and it wasn't too bad. I think that the game ultimately was just bogged down with far too many minigames, which I hear the developer, the creator, is actually going to be changing in the third part. They're going to be reducing the amount of minigames, and I think that's absolutely awesome that they've not only seen the problem, but listen to the fans and, projected, say, hey, you were right. I also heard that the platinum trophy for that game is really hard to get, and they have apologized for that, and they're going to make the next one just a little bit easier, which, again, I think is really cool. Another big game for me this year has to be Age of Mythology Retold. That has to be one of the best strategy games I think that I've played this year. Absolutely enjoyed it to the max, and very much looking forward to that big DLC that is coming out. Should be January. I mean, fingers crossed, but we are hoping that it does come out in January because I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to more content. We also got a bit of bonus content this year from the game as well, which I think is really good. It's really good to see a classic game get remade so well and see such a huge love for a classic retro game, and to see it on console as well, to see it on the Xbox has been really, really nice. I think the consoles lack the amount of strategy games maybe needed, and it's good to see that Xbox are trying to put many of them on there now. Another game that I think has just blown my mind personally has to be Pokemon TCG Pocket. For anyone that's been playing that, join the Discord, because we do have some players in that are playing it, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it at the moment. If you've been following the channel, you'll notice that I've put out a lot of videos for that game, and it's only been out for just over a month. I think that it's done a fantastic job of captivating those people maybe my age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, but people that remember this game coming out when it originally came out in the card form, when the anime very first come on, and you've got that sense of nostalgia of opening those packs and collecting that original 150 cards. I don't think Nintendo are I don't think that Pokemon in general, the Pokemon Company, I think they're doing a very shrewd thing here, where they've targeted a very specific audience, maybe those people that have a little bit of money in their pocket, and making them recapture those original 150 Pokemon. I think that's pretty cool, to be fair. The game itself works really well, it's a really good card collecting game. Not only that, you get to make decks and battle each other in PvP, PvE, that kind of thing. I think more content needs to come out for it. There may be a few balancing issues, but on the whole, for me, that's been one of my favorite games of the year so far. Now, we've also played games like King Arthur. That's also been really interesting, just kind of stepping into that dark fantasy, having that classic story retold to us as well. We also had the likes of Indiana Jones come out, which, was a bold choice doing a first-person action game when a lot of us were expecting to be perhaps third person. We kind of want to see Indy, but of course they did make up for it with a hell of a lot of cutscenes. They also stepped away from the action side, and it's more of a, you have to quietly navigate your way around the area, which And I think it's a really interesting, very bold decision. It works really, really well. I think a lot of us were expecting a Tomb Raider type or a Uncharted type of game, and this kind of offers something a little bit different. And honestly, stepping into the Indiana Jones universe, almost playing like a brand new movie even, has been really, really nice. We've also had games like Stalker 2 recently came out. Again, that was an Xbox day one release on Xbox Game Pass, and I think people have been waiting for that for absolutely years. Of course, the developers were in Ukraine, they did have the war going on, and so it got delayed an awful lot. And the game definitely has its bugs, but I have seen a huge support for it. I think I put out a mediocre review, but a lot of the community did step in and say, hey, you know what, it's one that we don't really have too much of lately, and it's definitely one to re-look at. And of course, right at the beginning of the year, we had Power World come out, which is essentially Pokemon with guns. I mean, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty awesome. And in practice, the game works really, really well as well. It's kind of a massive crafting system, base building system, collecting not Pokemon, throwing them out of not Pokeballs. It was a fantastic game, and watching this saga kind of like unfold of, you know, Nintendo, Pokemon Company kind of wanting to sue Power World and stop that game from happening. If you ask me, it was a little late. The game was already out. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting game, one that had huge potential. And it's good to see that it's had many, many updates and it's still kind of, you know, going on at the moment. I really, really liked that game. It was really interesting. And then, of course, you had Senua's Saga 2. That was a game that we've been waiting for such a long time. And it was good to see that game finally released. And it visually, it's an amazing game. For me, ultimately, it was just a little bit too short. And I was expecting a little bit more than we actually got, which is a real shame. But anyway, they're the games that kind of came out this year, the ones that kind of caught my eye, and of course the games that I've done a review on. Now, when it comes to giving out a title for Game of the Year, for me, it has to be a game that I have reviewed, that has featured on the channel, and so that's pretty much the games that I've mentioned. Now, we have done an awful lot of reviews this year, but a lot of the games that I've kind of played and been playing, reviewing, have been old retro games. In my opinion, the older games are just the better games. That's the way it is. Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, I can't think of a game that perhaps beats them when it comes to game mechanics and player agency. It's just ahead of its time. Even now, it's a fantastic game, and I would like to see more of it. But talking about the games that actually come out this year and the ones that I think should be on that list, I'm going to have to say that at least in third place has to be Pokemon TCG Pocket. Now, I understand that that's a mobile game. It's not all the games we cover, but I think it should be on this list. It's a fantastic game, and I think that more people should get into it, pick it up and try it if you want to. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. We've had a lot of fun playing it. In second place, it's going to have to be Indiana Jones. Now, Indiana Jones certainly has its flaws. I do think that the game should be longer. It is £99 at its most expensive version, and I think the game is ultimately too short for what you get. But visually, being able to step inside an Indiana Jones movie, I don't know about you, but I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. I think that it just done a better job for me than perhaps Final Fantasy done. Now, Final Fantasy Rebirth should be in that top 3 list, but I am negating it simply because I love the original Final Fantasy VII just too much to put it on this list. Now, they are different games. Absolutely. There are some aspects of this that are really, really good, but I just missed that turn-based combat. I think for me, the entire time I was playing it, the entire time I was in that world, I was just thinking, why can't I go play the other world? You know, why I want to go play the other game. I want to go play the game that I played, 20 years ago. Final Fantasy VII is just a fantastic game that I think is really hard to replicate. And ultimately, for me, Rebirth just fell a little bit short. But Game of the Year has to be Age of Mythology Retold. Absolutely loved it. So many videos out on it, so many videos to come out on it, and it's a game that I think that I've had the most fun this year. My entire family have ended up playing this game, and we've all, interchanged, been on different teams, been against each other, we've been on each other's team, going up against AI, going up against actual players. It's just a fantastic strategy game, so well made, so easy to jump into for those not maybe familiar with strategy games. I have a 10-year-old playing it, and she's actually pretty good, to be fair. But that kind of shows you just how well they've ported it over and how easy the controls are, considering, yes, PC players do have an advantage. They definitely are better and quicker, but you can do a good job on consoles. So for me, Game of the Year has to be Age of Mythology Retold. But hey, if I missed out a game, maybe you got something that you'd prefer to be on the list, let me know down in the comments. But until next time, I've been a monk who's been critically clueless, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.